Point, yes.
Okay. On the issue of the passports, which to me is just another ridiculous wrinkle here. Earlier today, the president said that the FBI stole his 3 passports, 1 expired, that it's an assault on a political opponent at a level never seen before in our country. And apparently you told our producers just before the show that the passports have now been picked up. So you got them back. 2 expired. 1's the diplomatic passport that every former president gets to keep in his possession. What's your view on this? Was this just an honest mistake? Were they in a drawer?
I don't know about any honest. I won't give them that much credit at this point. I think this goes to show the level of audacity that they have. If you're going to execute a raid on the primary residence of the President of the United States, you need to do it perfectly. There's no room for error. And when our Fourth Amendment rights are at stake as a nation, you cannot be flippant in any way. So I don't give them a pass as this was a simple mistake. I think it goes to show how aggressive they were, how overreaching they were, that they were willing to go past the 4 corners of the warrant and take whatever they felt was appropriate or they felt that they could take, and then go back through and look through everything. And once they realized, oh, whoops, maybe we went a little too far, then negotiate the return of it. And that's absolutely not the way a warrant is supposed to be executed. So, no, I think they were wrong and basically got caught.
Where were the passports? Were they in a safe? Were they in a drawer, a box? I mean, where were they?
I don't actually know. They were probably in the office, I would assume, because that makes the most sense. But again, they didn't disclose where they picked things up, so I can't say for certain.
Now, in his first interview since the raid, the president told Fox News Digital that people are so angry.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to NeoUnrealist. What we have here, guys, is an example of the FBI, who at the very least are accusing Trump of at the very least being sloppy with regard to removing documents that he was not authorized to remove. Essentially caught being sloppy, if we're being kind, we'll say they're being sloppy, at removing documents they aren't supposed to remove. Just remember how all day yesterday, if you were on the Twitter sphere, people arguing, oh, this shows they think Trump is a flight risk. Oh my, you see how serious this is? They've seized Trump's passports. Or there was the other line of argument. Oh, you see, Trump is lying. The FBI says they don't have his passports. And it all came crumbling down today. The thing is, I had already debunked this yesterday. When I said, first of all, they're talking about flight risk. I said, when the cops raid your house, they don't get to determine that you're a flight risk. That is something that is what a judge does at a bail hearing when setting your bail and the conditions of your bail. The cops cannot seize your passports, without getting a court order, or as a condition of a bond set at a bond hearing by a judge. So I was like, you people are out of your minds if you think that these passports won't be returned. They weren't even listed as seized on the list of items that they said they took from his home. They were not listed. Secondly, they were not listed as something that they were authorized to take on the search warrant itself. The search warrant said, documents generated as presidential records, evidence of a crime, etc., etc. Contraband. Your passport is not a government. I should say a presidential record. It is a docket that is government property, yes, but it is in your possession. The government cannot, the FBI can't just take it without a court order. So more important than that, we just had the back and forth, and this was how you expose the fake news, people, because this is still up. It has not been erased. You see it here. It's live. This is Nora O'Donnell, okay? She of CBS Evening News, so one of the three major news networks, at least broadcast news networks, of the CBS, ABC, NBC trio, according to a Department of Justice official. So she may want to check with this source again, because this source fed her bullshit at the very least, if she didn't know. According to a Department of Justice official, the FBI is not in possession of former President Trump's passports. Trump had accused the FBI of stealing his 3 passports during the search of his Mar-a-Lago home. Well, what do you know? That was given yesterday, almost 7 p.m. Eastern time. Still up there, hasn't been corrected. No change, no correction. And here's the Daily Mail's reporting on this yesterday. The Department of Justice slaps down Trump's claims that feds stole 3 of his passports during Mar-a-Lago raid, as he warns the agency terrible things are going to happen if it doesn't cool things down. So this was again the Department of Justice lying, giving quote unquote misinformation to the media that they didn't have him, except now we know, as you saw in that video clip from Fox News from one of Trump's attorneys, that yes indeed they had the passports and have now returned them because they wrongfully took them. So this is Taylor Budwich presenting this email that came out yesterday at 10:49 a.m. was sent. Subject from J. Bratt, NSD, I believe that's National Security Division, one presumes of the FBI, who is conducting this investigation. Evan, Jim, subject passports, Evan/Jim. We have learned that the filter agents, now these are the agents when you do a search warrant on a house, and if you're the FBI, generally what they will do is they will send agents not connected to the case to go conduct a search with the agents who are on the case to make sure that any items they find that they're not supposed to have, they don't take, like privileged lawyer-client information that Trump may have had in the home. They're not supposed to take that. And obviously they wouldn't want the investigators to see that. So you would have what's called filter agents who would go and at least attempt to separate that material. So that's what filter agents are. We have learned that the filter agents seized 3 passports, so it's ironic the filter agents took the wrong stuff, belonging to President Trump, 2 expired, and 1 being his active diplomatic passport. And this is another issue that we'll discuss that was also wrongfully being talked about by leftists. We are returning them, and they will be ready for pickup at WFO, don't know what that abbreviation is, at 2 p.m. today. I am traveling, but you can coordinate further with, and that's redacted, copied above. Thanks, Jay. This is apparently Jay Bratt from the National Security Division of the FBI. So, the issue I mentioned about the 2 expired and 1 diplomatic passport, I was telling people, oh, they're like so shady that Trump has 3 passports or two active passports. This means he's a criminal. He's a flight risk. He's going to flee the country. You see how sketchy Trump is? And again, I pointed out, I mean, this is common knowledge. This is common knowledge that it's very common for people to have multiple passports because of the simple fact, if you're in the military, guess what? You get a military passport. If you had a civilian passport, before you entered the military passport doesn't invalidate it. As a matter of fact, I believe a civilian passport, the regular passport that you get, if you're just Joe Blow civilian, if you're a child, a teenager, it doesn't expire for like 5 years. And if you're an adult, the passport is good for 10 years. So if you join the military and you have a passport, guess what? You've got 2 passports. But it's not just the military. You get a diplomatic passport if you have travel. If you're a government employee and your job involves foreign travel, you get a diplomatic passport. It's a government passport. So if let's say you work for the State Department and you travel a lot. For example, you could be stationed, say, in Germany. You get a government passport. You don't use your civilian passport when you're on the job traveling for the State Department. You've got to use your government passport. It gets handled differently by the other country. So again, this is not special for Trump. This is millions of people in the United States have this. There's millions of government employees, and if any of them have, required travel for the job, they get a government-issued passport that does not invalidate their old passport. Furthermore, the other reason people have multiple passports is because even if you're not a government employee, guess what? You've got your passport, and let's say you got your passport when you were 13 years old. Well, that one only lasts 5 years. It expires. You got to renew your passport, right? Guess what? When you renew your passport, the State Department, it's the State Department that issues passports, the State Department just sends back your old one and lets you keep it. And most people do keep their old passports for as a memento or sentimental reasons. Think about it. It's a record of where you've gone in your life. For most people, traveling to foreign countries is a big, as Biden said one time, a big effing deal. So, people get sentimental about their passports. It kind of, everywhere you've gone, I believe you have those stamp, oh, you went to this country on such and such a date. You left this country on such and such a date. Sorry. It's very common, for example, in court cases, when people are providing alibis, if their alibi involved foreign travel, they might say, well, here's my old passport, and it shows I wasn't even in the country on X date. So, again, another reason why millions upon probably tens of millions of people who've had passports over the years, if not, you get to keep your old passports. So if you're an older person, by the time you've reached old age and you're a senior citizen, you might have 3 or 4 passports. If you were somebody that constantly kept renewing it. So, yeah, Trump has apparently 2 civilian passports. One presumes they were the passports for his last 20 years. Because for him, obviously, it would be 10 years each. And his government passport that he, as an ex-president of the United States, gets to keep. Because I'm not even sure how it is technically, because presidents do get to form, ex-presidents, an office of the president of the United States, and they get, even though they hire the people that work for them, they do get the money from the government. So technically, I believe ex-presidents may still even be considered government employees. As a matter of fact, they do tend to keep their security clearances because it's very common for current president, the incumbent presidents, to utilize them for advice. So often they're given periodic security briefings about what's going on in the world. Now, this is not the case for Trump because Biden has ordered that Trump will not get those briefings. But I do believe Trump still has his security clearance, so that in theory, if Biden wanted to call him and ask him, hey, well, how'd you handle this situation when you spoke to so-and-so, he could do that, and Trump is cleared for that conversation. He has, I think, the top clearance you could get, if at least it is if you work in the White House, you get a clearance that's called Yankee White. So I'm guessing that the president's level of clearance would be that top level Yankee White clearance that you could basically look at anything. Again, I'm not an expert. I never worked in the White House, so I'm not sure how far that circle of people that gets that Yankee White classification level goes. I imagine it's not that widespread. Probably like the president's chief of staff and direct advisors, National Security Council, that type of thing. Let's see here. So even NBC News had to put that headline out today. Trump's passports returned after Mar-a-Lago search, Department of Justice official says. So if even NBC's admitting it, it's legit.
Were among the documents seized by the FBI. Mr. Trump not thrilled about it, as you can see here, but keep in mind that those passports were not on the list on the receipt for property unsealed by that affidavit last week. You can see what was on that affidavit, 11 sets of classified, top secret, or other sensitive.
Let me reemphasize that. Not only did they wrongfully take the passports, they did not list it on the inventory of items seized. Now that the next obvious question is, well, what else did they take that isn't on the list? Now, see, if this was a court of law, this would open up a whole can of worms that Trump would be able to go into, if he were to be a defendant. Think about that. Now he's open his evidence. Well, they took that. It wasn't listed on the inventory. What else did they take that wasn't listed? Now they've made themselves, open to all sorts of discovery. If this was, we're going to discuss why I think this is never going to go to court. Let's listen further.
Materials. NBC News has not been able to obviously confirm the claim that Mr. Trump is making one way or the other. But it comes as members of the House and Senate are hoping to learn more about the whats and the whys of the search at Mar-a-Lago. Members of both parties have their requests out for various documents, but they're not all the same, right? There is a bipartisan push from the Senate Intelligence Committee, both Senator Mark Warner and Senator Marco Rubio, the top two members of that committee, calling to see the classified documents or at least get access to them in a briefing. Democrats want a damage assessment formally. Republicans would like the DOJ, the FBI, and others to basically preserve communications related to the search. I want to bring in NBC News Justice reporter Ryan Riley, senior national political reporter Sahil Kapoor on Capitol Hill, and former FBI general counsel and MSNBC legal analyst Andrew Weissman. So, Ryan, let's bring us up to speed on a couple of things. First, any significant...
Wait, Andrew Weissman? They actually hired this clown? He's one of the anti-Trump FBI people. What the hell? Wasn't he the clown that actually ran the Mueller probe under Mueller? The guy that was persecuting Trump and everyone associated with him? This is who NBC News hires to report on Trump? Unbelievable.
And Andrew will talk to you about this, too, about the idea that passports may have been taken, what that may say to you about where this case goes, and then what is next as it relates to this search at Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, I want to be careful about this one because that's something that we only hear from the president so far, and it could go a couple of different ways. But I think Andrew might be best to weigh in on the potential significance of that there. But it is.
Yeah, I want to go further into this. This was the line of reasoning yesterday. I'm like, these people are idiots. The FBI can't just take your passports. There's nothing on the freaking warrant that authorizes them to take them. I mean, I was dumbfounded yesterday. I said the media cannot be this stupid. I said they have to be pretending to be this dumb. They know this. Any idiot who's covered just basic crime stories knows this.
Significant. I mean, just as a fact that this idea that the president's passports were taken by the FBI. I think there's obviously different interest on Capitol Hill in terms of getting more information about exactly the damage assessment and then the communication side. But I would just point out, that this has been a very by-the-book investigation in terms of the FBI side. Remember that there was that initial meeting with Trump in early June after the subpoena in late May, and all of the while that information held. The fact that the former president of the United States was
not really going into that, it seems. Anyway, so even Newsweek here is starting to put their finger in the wind and see which way this is going. FBI raid might not have been about indicting Trump, say experts, says Newsweek. Let's read for a little bit of what they wrote. All eyes are in the Justice Department as the public waits to see what emerges from the FBI raid of former President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago home. While an indictment would justify the order of a search warrant, experts say that might have not have been the goal for federal investigators. Oh, you don't say. Say it ain't so. You mean they may have used it as a pretext? Court records unsealed on Friday reveal that FBI agents were authorized to seize any documents marked as classified or any records related to the transmission of national defense information or classified material. The warrant also indicated that federal law enforcement was investigating Trump for violating the Espionage Act. Now, they keep saying the Espionage Act to make it sound as if Trump was dealing as an agent of a foreign power. Basically, the Espionage Act, in addition to the spying stuff, it's just the place where the rules, as far as laws that Congress have passed, for handling classified or government materials, that's just the act where they're covered. So if you take home by accident, say, if you're a government worker and accidentally take a classified document at home, unknowingly, maybe it's your briefcase, guess what? The charge for that, if you're ever investigated for it, is the Espionage Act. Even though you had no intention of, dealing with a foreign power or turning that information over to them, to any unauthorized person, you get investigated for the Espionage Act. So they keep liking to throw that out there, and the left just seems to think that they're investigating Trump for selling shit to China, Saudi Arabia, Russia, you name it. I've heard all kinds of wild blue and on nonsense. That's all this is, guys. I mean, I don't see any evidence that this goes anything beyond a dispute over what is paper belongs to the government and what should be where. The search may well have been just a product of exasperation at Trump's non-compliance with demands that he return highly sensitive materials, Richmond said. So that's, again, the former federal prosecutor, Daniel Richmond. There's the possibility that nothing follows the raid aside from the recovery of those records. And just me following the story, I think that's what it is. So, Alan Dershowitz, as you know, he's a constitutional lawyer. He's well read in this area. He says, saying that the conducting an FBI search and prosecuting a violation of the Espionage Act are two different issues. He pointed out that because the statute is so broad, like I said, it covers basically everything from selling secrets to a foreign power to accidentally taking records home. Hillary Clinton, for example, during her email scandal, they were investigating her for violations of the Espionage Act. They weren't alleging that she was, selling the secrets to a foreign power. It just so happens that's where the laws for handling government material are. You pointed out that because the statute is so broad, the Justice Department has historically been selective with its use of the Espionage Act to avoid wielding it against any political opponent. Well, that rule went out the window with Trump. The question isn't whether you can get a conviction, Dershowitz told Newsweek. The question is whether it's proper to bring a charge against Trump under this statute when it's never been brought before in this context. Absolutely right. The Hillary Clinton situation being the prime example. Anyway, so in general, Trump, he posted to Truth Social, his account on Truth Social yesterday. I'll just read what he said. There's no way to justify the unannounced raid, and he puts that in capital letters to emphasize that it was a raid of Mar-a-Lago, the home of the 45th president of the United States. And of course he mentions, who got more votes by far than any sitting president in the history of our country, by a very large number of gun-toting FBI agents and the Department of, he puts in quotes, justice. But in the interest of transparency, I call for the immediate release of the completely unredacted affidavit pertaining to this horrible and shocking break-in. Also, the judge on this case should recuse. Now, although Trump has called for that in his Truth Social post, I see no indication that he's going to take any legal, assert any legal pressure to get the affidavit released. I think legally he's going to be apathetic to that. There's going to be a hearing on Thursday where the judge is going to rule on that. I happen to think it's almost certain the judge will not release the affidavit. The Department of Justice is resisting that. They filed a motion on Monday to keep the affidavit secret. And I think Trump, believe it or not, even though he's calling for it, actually would prefer that they keep the document a secret. Because if it's as we suspect, this is just the Department of Justice at best trying to they were just pissed off that Trump was holding on to these documents that they feel are government documents. Or at worst, it was a fishing expedition trying to find something else on them, like, J6 related, or, related to the case in Georgia about overturning an election result. Well, then it would actually kind of behoove Trump to keep the document secret, because then he could play the card of, you see, what are they hiding? They're hiding something, and truthfully, it is bad. The Justice Department, ironically, would probably be better off releasing the affidavit, but they're kind of like painted themselves into this corner now, where they can't continue the investigation if they release the affidavit, because they burn their whatever sources or cooperating witnesses they have inside Trump world. They'd also scare out any future witnesses off, because then they'd be looking and say, holy shit, Trump's able to pressure the Justice Department to release affidavits, and they can't protect any witnesses that turn on them. So, in a sense, they painted themselves into this corner where they've got to look like they're hiding something now. And so, Trump, it's like, I don't want to say 4D chess, because I don't think he plans this shit like this. I just think he's the luckiest freaking guy on the face of the planet, and that his enemies are so stupid. And it just keeps going his way, where, okay, I'll look like the Mr. Transparency and demand they release the affidavit, knowing full well that they kind of have painted themselves into this corner where they can't proceed with anything if they go that route. And that by hiding it makes them look bad, and it looks like it allows him to claim that he's being persecuted. I mean, I'm not even saying that cynically. He is being persecuted, after all. So here's the Department of Justice saying that if the search warrant were to be revealed, it would irreparably harm their ongoing criminal investigation. Let's see what he goes here. Their argument, the first paragraph of the argument: disclosure of the search warrant affidavit would irreparably harm the government's ongoing criminal investigation. The press and the public enjoy a qualified right of access to judicial proceedings and the judicial records filed therein. See Romero versus Drummond Co. Incorporated. Chicago Tribune versus Bridgestone Firestone Incorporated. The unsealing of judicial materials pursuant to the common law right of access requires a balancing of competing interests. And that's from the Chicago Tribune case. Now this I'm going to have to expand so I could read it. Disclosure at this juncture of the affidavit supporting probable cause would, by contrast, cause significant and irreparable damage to this ongoing criminal investigation. As the court is aware from its review of the affidavit, now this is Judge Reinhardt, who Trump rightly feels should recuse himself from this case, by the way. It contains, among other critically important and detailed investigative facts, highly sensitive information about witnesses. You see there? That's what it is. These guys know that if they release this affidavit, they've burned their witnesses. Including witnesses interviewed by the government, specific investigative techniques, and information required by law to be kept under seal pursuant to the Federal Rule of Criminal Procedure 6E. If disclosed, the affidavit would serve as a roadmap to the government's ongoing investigation. Yeah, it would reveal what they're actually doing. It would reveal their corruption, providing specific details about its direction and likely course in a manner that is highly likely to compromise future investigative steps. In other words, you won't be able to investigate Trump anymore because we'll be revealed as compromised. In addition, information about witnesses is particularly sensitive. Again, they're going back to the witness well. Given the high-profile nature of this matter and the risk that the revelation of witness identities would impact their willingness to cooperate with the investigation. Disclosure of the government's affidavit at this stage would also likely chill future cooperation by witnesses whose assistance may be sought as this investigation progresses, as well as in other high-profile investigations. You see that? As in other high-profile investigations. But boom. The fact that this investigation implicates highly classified materials, okay, that's the bullshit. They noticed they threw that in at the end, because that's the last thing of it. They're not worried about the revelation of classified materials, guys. Here's the document itself. It was put out by Politico. If you don't want to go searching around U.S. federal government databases for it. It's only 13 pages long, so it was a quick read. Other thing that undermines this actually going anywhere, and telling you that it's not really about some kind of classified documents that threatens the safety of the country. The headline of the Wall Street Journal says it all. Merrick Garland waged search of Trump's Mar-a-Lago for weeks. Okay, right there. Do you really think if they suspected Trump of holding vital national security secrets like nuclear weapon secrets, and that he was in danger of transmitting this to Russia, China, Saudi Arabia, whoever you want to say it, do you really think that Merrick Garland would be allowed to sit there in his office hemming and hawing weeks on end, deciding whether or not to serve a search warrant on it? If the documents were, for example, say the plans for the United States, say W-88 warhead, that they suspected he might be trying to sell to a foreign power, I guarantee you the time to decide on that search would not be a matter of weeks. It'd probably be a matter of minutes, at worst hours. Okay, so this idea that this urgent national security matter, could wait weeks. Now let's translate weeks is actually months if you think about it, because unless it was 2 or 3 weeks, okay, this is silly. Urgent national security matter that takes weeks to decide if he's going to search. Yeah, okay. So here's the New York Times also noting that the Justice Department objects to releasing the affidavit used to search Trump's home. So let it be said, even if Trump is the one that wants this to happen. It's the Justice Department that painted themselves into the corner. So again, I don't think it was 4D chess. It's just the way they executed it that kind of put them in this place where they've got to look shady. The thing is, they actually are shady. So I mean, it's not like it's not a true perception. But there was a better way to go about this. A super chat from V Radio. V Radio in the chat. Welcome. Still can't believe that they're pushing this and at the same time ignoring Hillary deleting emails she knew had been subpoenaed. Not only did she delete the emails of E-Radio, don't forget, was it like 18 phones that were destroyed using hammers? Could you imagine the uproar that would, if the FBI announced that Donald Trump and his staff destroy cell phones using hammers? Why, government cell. Oh my God, you would never hear the end of it. You would never, or the fact that Hillary, to even get the classified documents that were found on her email server, to even get them there is itself a crime. Think about that. If you're on a government computer viewing government classified documents that are digitized, you can't remove them. Government computers that have classified material on them, they don't have thumb drive, or USB ports. They're generally not, you can't send email from them. It's not like you can email the documents. So how did they get those classified materials, those digitized classified materials, out of the classified computer system, computer networks, and then onto Hillary Clinton's email server? That right there, and that was never explained. How they got them out of the classified system and into Hillary's basement email server. I've never heard an explanation how that happened. For those of you who've ever worked in the government and ever had access to a computer with classified information on, think about it. There's no way to get information off it. You can't. There's no USB ports. You can't get that shit printed. You can't just click print. Am I the only one who's remembering this? Anyway. How did I do that? Here we go. Bum, bum, bum. Last thing, even on CNN, they had to, basically even a Bush Republican kind of admitting that this thing is much ado about nothing, because there's really only two ways this can go. And basically, if you want to be crude about it, the FBI, or the Department of Justice, rather, is going to just have to shit or get off the pot, and they don't have long to decide.
Felt this week like we're at the circus now. We're all under the big top, and this can only end one of two ways. He's got to be indicted, or Merrick Garland has to resign. You can't raid the president's house, the former president, and possible future candidate, say to the American people, we think he's violating 3 different laws, and then do nothing. So this has, to me...
Was it justified?
Well, yes, if you think there are classified documents, and I totally get, if you've got top secret information, which we don't know what it is, by the way, but if you've got this documents and they're not supposed to be out in the open, absolutely. But this cannot end in any other way. I mean, how could it possibly end with just, well, okay, we got him back and it's over now? There's no going back now.
That's my point exactly. So the long and short of all of this, guys, is that they can't take too long with this, because the cat's out the bag. Number one. Number two, they can't just at the end of this go, never mind, you can't raid the house of the former president and probable 2024 major candidate for the presidency, and just go, never mind, no harm, no foul. They've painted themselves into the corner. They've got to indict quickly, which I don't think they have anywhere near a case to make, or somebody's head's got to roll. They got to offer up a head, because you can't just do this without accountability. Exactly. I don't think they understood. I just, whether it's naivete or stupidity, They didn't realize what a big deal this was going to be. I don't understand where they got this idea. Did they really think Trump was going to lay low and just not make a big deal of this? I mean, have they watched this man? Not just in the last 5 years, you know, in his activity as president. I mean, have they watched this man in his life? When has he ever not made mountains of molehills? You've invaded his home. Not to mention the fact, I think the whole thing with the safe may have actually been a deliberate ruse. Think about it. And especially with his son, Eric Trump, being very coy. I'm starting to think that they bought that safe for the express purpose of flushing out a mole. Because from all reporting, the safe was empty. And that there was a big show of buying the safe. Or maybe they just told one person about it, that there was stuff in that safe. Because the FBI showed up that day with a safe cracker. That safe seemed to have been a primary point of interest for them. How did they know it was even there if it was just purchased? It was a brand new safe, guys. Practically fresh out the box. They came with a safe cracker. So somebody told them that there was something in that safe, and there was nothing. So I'm suspecting that the Trump inner circle said, let's put some cheese in a trap and see who gets caught in it. Starting to think that's what the thing with the safe was, because remember what a big deal Trump made they even broke into my safe. In his inimitable way. He kept referring to that safe. Just gotta keep that in your memory lockbox and see if that becomes an issue. And Eric Trump is kind of hinting that he still has a silver bullet from that raid, and I think that's what it is. Because remember, they kept the security. They were told to turn off the security cameras, which apparently they were for a brief period of time. But apparently they did turn the security cameras back on, so I think they have some interesting video that might come out at some point in the future. Anyway, let's move on from that. In other news, not too long today, updates on the Russo-Ukrainian war, but I'm going to talk about it because this is kind of actually pretty good. Remember I reported to you on in the previous stream how the Russians had a little accident at an air base in Crimea, and then another accident at another air base in Belarus. We got a super chat here from V Radio. Wouldn't it have been great if they went into his safe and found his prized Pokemon cards or something? Yeah. Or actually, the best thing, V Radio, would be if he took Hunter Biden's laptop hard drive, a cloned copy of it, and left it in there. Forcing the National Security Division to seize that. That would have been the best thing. Because the real Hunter Biden laptop is sitting in a basement in a drawer in the FBI. They're doing their best not to look at it. Trump should have just put the hard drive in the safe, a cloned hard drive of Hunter Biden's laptop, and then when people demand to see it, it would be all Hunter Biden information. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. So here's again, the Russians are just having bad luck. Another accident, quote unquote, in Crimea. Get a load of this, guys. Now, over the course of my having this channel, I've shown just about every form of combustion known to man, short of say a nuclear detonation. I have never seen anything like this. And apparently this is still cooking off from the last report I've seen from the Russian-appointed governor of their occupied Crimea. You tell me, how could you be anywhere near this? There's so many missiles and bombs in that place that it's been cooking off since yesterday or last night.
Ох, бля, снаряд упал, бля.
Да?
Да? Вот, на дорогу.
Прям перед машиной причем. Да ни хера не летает. Ебать, аж автобус шевелится.
Чё? Я уехал на Джанкой, поеду автобус.
Jesus, this thing never ends. This has gone on for hours, guys.
Составлю, все, не пускает вас просто. А нет, все, короче, я на базу автобус оставлю, все, а хули толку, ебашек там, блин.
Ух, ебать, они там поразлетались.
Алло.
Нихера себе.
Да какой автобус, бля, ебаный.
Это ж автобус шевелится.
Это Азовскому, бля, ебаный.
В километрах 6 автобус шевелится.
Okay, so, I mean, how do you, I think we've gone beyond the point of, I don't think the Russians are still holding on to the accident narrative on that one, because that's insane. That actually was a temporary ammunition depot that was located next to a military base. The tweet here from from Crimea: morning near Debunking began with explosions. You got Crimea. This talking about Crimea, but apparently the Russians were warehousing explosives there because, as I reported in the previous stream, there is significant military activity going on in the Kherson area. So the Russians have to move a lot of ammunition to resupply their troops in that area, and Crimea is where that stuff is coming from. So apparently they were using that. They thought that place was safe enough to store ammunition. They thought it was far enough behind the lines. So, make a long story short, what I think is going on in Crimea, there is clearly a Ukrainian special forces unit just wreaking havoc behind the lines. Because in addition to that ammunition dump going up, again later on, a electric substation was set on fire. A vital electric substation, I might add. So there is clearly some kind of Ukrainian special forces or partisan unit running around Crimea, probably not in uniform. I mean, how do you tell a Ukrainian from a Russian? You know, most Ukrainians can speak Russian in addition to Ukrainian. So you got a bunch of Ukrainians running around Crimea, blowing up everything that they could get their hands on. I think the most likely thing, because you're not going to gain access, I would think, to a Russian military facility. So what I think they're doing is, I think maybe they're using those U.S. suicide drones that are so small when they fold up they could fit in a backpack. I mean, you should see how small they get when they're all folded up and the fins are like folded into the little rocket. And all you need is this tiny little mortar tube. It's like you would shoot off a firework. It's like a 3 or 4 foot long tube. You drop the suicide drone a little into it. It shoots it out, and then the fins pop out, and it flies like a cruise missile. And this thing is so small, and it's basically plastic. It's like it's probably undetectable by radar. And you just fly this thing, and it's got a bomb on it, and they just probably fly it in. That's my guess. That's complete speculation on my part. There's been no reporting of that. Because how else can you explain these attacks are happening so far behind enemy lines? There is no missile that Ukraine has in their inventory that could reach them. So whatever munition they're using, yes, it's got to be some kind of man-portable thing. Yeah, guys, this, to me, if nothing else, you got to understand, the Ukrainians have rewritten the book on guerrilla warfare here. Because you're going to see, going from now on, drones are going to be the way people are going to be involved in civil wars and, insurgencies. Because let me tell you, those little suckers, if you use a small suicide drone, they're basically unstoppable. They can't be shot down, except through luck. And you just fly them into the target. If it's a fixed target, it's done. Forget it. Let's read about the write-up. So remember, this is still going on. As of 20 minutes ago, that this story was written, so it's still going on. Ukraine live updates. Blast hits Russian ammunition depot in Crimea. The explosion came a week after blasts at a Russian airbase on the peninsula destroyed several fighter jets. A senior Ukrainian official said that an elite military unit... Okay, so the senior Ukrainian official is admitting that an elite military unit was responsible for the attack on Tuesday that sent up... So there is some kind of unit that is running around Crimea doing all this damage. The blast at an ammunition storage site is near a Russian military base. Odessa, Ukraine. Huge explosion rocked a Russian ammunition depot on occupied Crimean Peninsula, delivering another embarrassing blow to Moscow's forces a week after blasts at a Russian airbase in the same region destroyed several fighter jets. So they don't mention the fire at the electrical substation here. Senior Ukrainian officials speaking on condition of anonymity to discuss the operation said an elite Ukrainian military unit was operating behind enemy lines and is responsible for the explosion, which set up a huge fireball. Russia's defense ministry said in a statement the explosion was an act of sabotage. Okay, so they've dropped the accident nonsense, and they're calling it now an act of sabotage, the Russian defense ministry. According to the Russian state news agency RIA Novosti, the apparent attacks, which used covert forces behind enemy lines, underscore the inventiveness of Ukraine's forces. Since the war began, they have adopted unconventional tactics in the hopes of leveling the playing field. Guys, and the reason why I think they use suicide drones, the reason why I keep going back to the suicide drone thing, do you know how much those things cost? Like a javelin missile can cost like, what, a couple $100,000? A suicide drone only costs $6,000. It is one of the cheapest munitions that you could give an infantryman that could do so much damage. So that's why I keep thinking that's what it's got to be. Because if you're sending a Ukrainian Special Forces unit, they can't go out there in uniform behind enemy lines. So they're probably dressed in civilian clothes. They obviously can't carry a bunch of bulky equipment with them. Maybe they have a car or a vehicle of some kind. So it's got to be something that's concealable and something that a person can carry without being obvious. And as I said, the actual suicide drone, when it's folded down and it's really small, you don't even have to put it in the backpack. It fits in the side pocket of a backpack. I've seen them carry them. Let me see here. The apparent attacks which used covert forces behind enemy lines underscore the inventiveness. Although Ukraine's leaders did not publicly claim responsibility, an advisor to President Vladimir Zelensky confirmed that the explosion occurred. The advisor, Mikhailo Podolyak, also appeared to hint at Ukrainian involvement. Although he did not confirm Ukraine's involvement, Andrei Yermak, the head of the presidential office in Ukraine, said on the Telegram messaging app that the country's armed forces would continue the, quote, demilitarization, quote, close quote, of Crimea and other captured territories until they achieved the complete deoccupation of Ukrainian territories. At least 2 civilians were wounded in a blast in the northern peninsula, and as many as 2,000. Yeah, Russia established a 5-kilometer exclusion zone around that base now, and I think the reason is they want to keep these special forces people away from their bases. So I think you're going to start seeing at all military facilities in Crimea, I think the Russians are going to establish an exclusion zone and bar all civilians from those areas so that if they do see anybody, they're just going to shoot them. So as many as 2,000 Russians were evacuated from the area around the weapon depot. The Kremlin-installed head of Crimea, Sergei Aksionov, said on Telegram. So that's the guy that governs Crimea on behalf of Putin. The explosion occurred at a temporary ammunition storage site near a military base, he said. The ammunition then continued exploding after the initial blast. At the moment, detonations are continuing, Mr. Aksionov said. So, man, that thing's... How much stuff did they have there that it's still cooking off? Since Tuesday. Jesus. Tuesday over there, remember. They're like half a day ahead of us. The Russian Defense Ministry said that there were no serious casualties and the explosions damaged power lines, railroad tracks, and homes. Local residents in Crimea said the authorities have introduced a yellow-level terrorist threat alert and that people were being stopped and searched as they entered parks and public buildings. So they're looking for these Ukrainian guys, whoever they are, running around there. And in other news, this actually was in the Donbass area. I'm sure all of you have known the infamous Wagner Group. It's basically Russia's version of Blackwater, but if Blackwater was like war criminals. it's like Blackwater was mostly, contrary to all the stuff about them, for the most part, they just did like security for like Department of State people or fixed site. Wagner Group actually conducts offensive operations where they go. So here's Wagner Group headquarters was destroyed, believe it or not. And the reason is so stupid. I mean, this is terrible operational security. Ukraine destroys Wagner Group headquarters after a Russian reporter accidentally gives away location. I mean, he didn't give away just the location. He basically gave the street address. I mean, this is insane. Now look at this photo here. He put this photo up on Telegram, and obviously the Ukrainians monitor the Russian Telegram channels. And the moron, as the Wagner Group guys were posing in front of their headquarters, here's the freaking address of the place. I mean, he drew them a map basically. Here, send the HIMARS artillery here. Self-selecting target, a pro-Russian journalist, Sergei Sreda, posted on Telegram after his visit to the Wagner Group headquarters on the front. A sign in one of them identified its address as Miranovskaya 12, Popazna. Ukrainian artillery then destroyed the building. I mean, how stupid can you be? What kind of idiot puts the address of a unit headquarters basically on the internet? I mean, think about it. Think about all those guys that died in that attack. All right, so if this video is accurate, the boom was a big one. Oh, there's video of the rubble. So this was the Wagner Group headquarters in Popazna. Yeah, whatever building was there is gone. I mean, my guess, they hit it with HIMARS because whatever hit that was massive. And you guys saw the picture. I mean, there was a building there. No more. It's been reduced to individual bricks.
Все, под завалами, блядь.
So that was in the Luhansk region. Wagner Group has been a top target for Ukraine throughout the war, especially lately with the arrival of U.S. HIMARS systems that let Ukrainian artillery reach far behind in the front lines. Why? Because they're evil even by Russian standards. They've earned a reputation for unusual brutality and ruthlessness, carrying out off-the-books mercenary operations in theaters like Syria. They also operate a lot in Africa. I mean, the African bush wars, they make a lot of money out there. Imagine how sinister a unit has to be for the Russian government to not want to be formally associated with it. Earlier in the war, amid widespread evidence of war crimes committed by Russian regulars in Ukrainian towns like Bucha, Putin rewarded troops responsible with a commendation. The Wagners are too dirty even for him to acknowledge in public. So he's like, yeah, he gave medals to the guys in Bucha, which, for most people is the most infamous war crime of the war so far. Yet he doesn't give awards to the Wagner Group. They must be good at their jobs because it was also the Wagner Group that was tasked with assassinating Vladimir Zelensky early in the war. I thought that was with the Chechens. I thought he gave that one to the Chechens. Or maybe he gave it to both. I don't know. I'm pretty sure the Chechens were after Zelensky initially. Until the operation to take Kiev went sideways. Sorry, Kyiv. I keep forgetting. The reputed head of the group, top Putin flunky Yevgeny I always mess up this guy's name. It's Prigozhin. Is also the man who's been touring Russian prisons lately. You know, he's the guy, trying to recruit people out of the Russian jails. So they don't think this guy was killed, but the only issue with that is he hasn't been heard from or seen since the strike on the headquarters. Now, a big shot like that, I doubt he would be in that place that long. He was there. He was photographed visiting that headquarters shortly before the attack. I just don't see a guy like that staying in the Ukrainian theater for long. He's like the head of the entire Wagner Group. He's like the CEO, essentially. Actually, do they have one of the photos of him? There's a link. Let's see. Ukraine HIMARS destroy Wagner HQ after Russian doxes forces. Show me the picture of Prigozhin at the place. Now, see, they talk about it, but they don't link it. I hate when they do that. So, if Prigozhin was there, presumably he'd be dead or wounded. Although you would think they would have announced that by now. I don't think they would hide that. I mean, but as I said, he has been off the radar. Here we got people that watch the Telegram channels. Rob Lee, another Russian Telegram channel, says that the people he knows who work for Prigozhin say they haven't seen him since he went to the front. That could just be because he's maintaining operational security, and wherever he's visiting, he's not telling people. I doubt a guy would visit the front and want the Ukrainians know where he is. I mean, they'd obviously strike where, if he revealed his location, they'd send an artillery strike. Prigozhin off radar. Gossip is that he survived the Ukrainian attack, but may be injured, hence the lack of a proof of life photo, or he may be dead. Here's what I wrote about Putin's chef, the leader of the Wagner murder gang and killer in the Kremlin. Yeah, it's weird. Apparently, this guy's big thing is cooking. Putin's chef. Apparently, I think he used to. Did he used to run a catering outfit that Putin used to make use of? It's crazy. This guy's background. it's like a Bond movie villain. He got his start as with a catering business or something. One day I'm gonna have to do a deep dive on the background of Prigozhin. Other sources on Telegram are hearing through the grapevine that Prigozhin is alive. Yeah, there are some fascinating characters in this war, I gotta tell you. Former NATO commander James Stavridis guesstimates that Russia has 6 months left in Ukraine before its army goes bust. It's the interesting thing about the Russian army. They've got plenty of metal, but they're running short on meat. You would think that this would not be an issue, but apparently recruiting is a problem. Russia's not meeting its recruiting goals. They can't use conscripts because they haven't declared war, technically. Remember, this is, what did Putin call it, some kind of security operation? So, by Russian law, they can't send conscripts into Ukraine. So, you've basically got to volunteer and sign a contract. Wagner Group has basically been reported in Russian sources as they're going around Russian prisons trying to get guys with military experience to go sign a contract and fight in the war. In exchange for 6 months of service, you get a get out of jail free card. So they're unfortunately, that deal doesn't seem to be getting a lot of takers. Apparently, Russian criminals would prefer to stay in Russian prison than go to the front in Ukraine, because there's rumors that what they do with these guys, the hasty recruits, all they're doing with them, which is actually pretty messed up if you think about it, they're kind of using them as cannon fodder, where they send them out first to kind of make contact with Ukrainian forces. And then once the Ukrainian forces expose themselves to like ambush these guys, then, the Russian artillery, which is basically what Russia's best combat arm is, their artillery. They got mass artillery. And once the Ukrainians expose themselves, they basically artillery strike the shit out of the area. So, Yeah, it's kind of messed up. So yeah, I could imagine why a bunch of Russian prisoners might, as horrifying and hellish as a place as I'm sure a Russian prison is, I'm guessing they prefer to stay in the Russian prison and go be used as bait. If you hear stories about World War II, I mean, that was a common punishment in World War II for, say, German soldiers. If you were, say, a German soldier stationed in Germany, that was considered cushy. And if you pissed off the wrong guy, they would issue orders and send you to like the Eastern Front of Russia. You'd be in southern Ukraine or someplace, or Stalingrad. That was it. That was basically how listen. If you want to keep your cushy assignment here, if not, you'll end up on the Eastern Front next week. At least on a train to the Eastern Front. It actually took a while to get to the Eastern Front. That's how far it was from, say, Berlin. Anyway, moving on. Oh, Lord. General news. There's going to be a lot of tabs here. Let's see if the potato can handle it, guys. Maybe we might have to skip over some of these. Alright, we already talked about this. Okay, this is interesting. I'm not 100% certain. It's going to depend if I'm feeling it or not, and if it happens early enough. If Liz Cheney gets her ass whipped tonight, I might do a short late night stream. Cheney braces for loss as Trump tested in Wyoming and Alaska. I would love for that to be called early and not feel like tired or have something else to do, and be able to dance on the political grave of Liz Cheney, because I think not only is she going to lose tonight, she's going to lose by way more than double digits. She may lose by over 20 points. Some people say 30 points. She is going to get roundly rejected by the people of Wyoming. And there are many in the MAGA community that will be hoisting a toast or lighting up a cigar to the political demise of Liz Cheney. I will just be laughing if you don't hear from me tonight, just know in your mind that I will be laughing my ass off at the TV if Liz Cheney, oh my God, if she gets blown the fuck out, BTFO'd in Wyoming, as bad as I think it's going to be. I mean, she was reduced in the final days of this campaign to begging Democrats to change their registrations to Republican and vote for her in the Republican primary. And it's just, I don't think, if every Democrat in Wyoming is a state that I think is like, votes like 70% red. So I don't even think if every Democrat in the state were to change their registration to Republican and vote in this primary, I still don't think that would be enough for her to win. It might get her close, but I just don't think. I mean, this is going to be bad. Oh my God. You got to understand that the Cheneys were huge in Wyoming. They were essentially the Wyoming political establishment. I mean, this would be an earthquake in Wyoming politics if the Cheneys were to be essentially ejected. It would be the death of the establishment Republican Party, certainly in Wyoming, but I think it would be symbolic that basically the Bushies will have been thrown into the dustbin of history. Migrant apprehensions exceed a fiscal year record. You will not believe the numbers of illegal aliens crossing the border. It's gotten to the point where even not the usual suspects are starting to say, you know, this is getting out of hand. When you have Democrat politicians starting to express nervousness at the situation, you know stuff's bad. The number of total illegal migrant encounters just in July 2022, guys, is 199,976. So that's 24 short of 200,000. Basically, what we're averaging is 200,000 illegal alien migrant encounters at the border every month. So every month, the equivalent population of a small city is entering the United States. A small city. Think about that. A small city's worth of people every month entering the United States. So the number of total illegal migrant encounters in just the first 10 months of the federal government's fiscal year already exceeds the total during the fiscal year 2021. So we've already passed 2021, and we've got 2 years to go. So 2021, which is a record year, is about to be eclipsed by a mile. The Biden administration relishes calling all actions taken historic ones. And to hear them pat themselves on the back, you'd think this is the most awesome presidential administration ever. That's a joke, of course, because this administration makes Jimmy Carter's administration look competent. Well written, hot air. But apparently even the New York Times is starting to write about this. Like I said, not the usual suspects. If the New York Times is worried, you know shit's about hitting the fan. Unauthorized crossings typically decline during the summer months. Even so, the number of apprehensions each month continues to be higher than most of the previous years. That pattern has continued since the spring of 2021, a trend Republicans blame on President Biden's campaign promise to be more welcoming to immigrants than his predecessor and on the policies of his administration. By the end of June, border officials apprehended people more than 1.74 million times, breaking the record from the total number during the government's 2021 fiscal year of more than 1.73 million. I think they're gonna get close to, if not pass, 2 million this year. 2 million illegal aliens apprehended, which at the time was the highest number of illegal crossings recorded since at least 1960. I don't even think they kept records before that, because the crossings before 1960 were almost barely measurable. The government's fiscal year ends September 30th, and at this rate, the total number of crossings for the year is likely to exceed 2 million. Yep, that's what I was saying. So here's Bill Melugin. Bill Melugin seems to be permanently stationed down there at the border. You never see him report from anywhere else but the border. I think he lives in LA, but anytime he's reporting, it's always from like the Del Rio sector or the Rio Grande Valley of Texas. So let's hear Bill Melugin's report on Fox News today.
Hey, Aisha, good afternoon to you. This weekend here in Eagle Pass, one of the busiest we've seen in recent memory. Just in the last 24 hours alone, more than 2,000 illegal crossings here.
Holy shit! In just one border crossing, Eagle Pass, 2,200 illegal aliens apprehended in one spot in a 24-hour period. That's almost 100 illegal aliens apprehended per hour at this one little crossing spot at Eagle Pass. That's unreal.
Here in the Del Rio sector. And take a look at this video. It has been storming all day long out here, but that hasn't slowed anything down. We shot this earlier this morning despite
rain or shine. Even in a thunderstorm, it's 100 illegals an hour rate. Just in Eagle Pass, this little dinky crossing.
Despite the wind, despite the rain, this was a single huge group of 200 that crossed illegally all at the same time, predominantly Venezuelans and Cubans. As you can see, most of them single adults turning themselves in to Border Patrol. But you talk about those weekend numbers. Look at what we saw yesterday. If we can pull this drone video up. This was early yesterday morning, a single even...
Holy smokes, look at this. It's the hordes.
Bigger group of approximately 300 who came across all at the same time. Once again, almost all of them single adults coming from all around the world, Central and South America, Africa, some from Asia as well. You'll see in some of the video, many of them are well dressed. They've got smartphones with them. They're listening to AirPods as they're waiting for Border Patrol. Then you'll see some of them actually walk towards a local highway and almost got on the road before they were stopped by Texas DPS troopers. That wasn't all. Take a look at this third piece of video. Two other groups totaling more than 200 migrants also yesterday morning, again here in the Eagle Pass area. Once again, I know I sound like a broken record, predominantly single adults. It is no longer those mass family units again. Just since October here in the Del Rio sector, there have now been 401,000 illegal crossings. I had a chance to talk to Texas Congressman Tony Gonzalez. He represents this area. He just got back from a trip to the Northern Triangle countries where he spoke with the leadership there. Here's what he had to say.
All right, let me stop before they talk. You're going to have a Democrat telling you that this is bad and that Biden's doing nothing. Okay? The Northern Triangle, this guy just came back from there. He spoke to the leaders of the Northern Triangle, and basically they told him, Biden hasn't called us, the Biden administration has not called us to take these people back. They're not, understand, they'd be willing to. You may have to give them something, you might have to sweeten the pot, a little aid, whatever. But the apparent, impression I got is, well, we'd take them if they call and tell us to. Remember when Trump essentially, he coerced them to take them by just saying, oh, how much foreign aid do you get? Well, now you get none. Suddenly they were all calling him to say, oh, we'll take as many as you got, as you want to send us. So yeah, if you call them and you negotiate, they'll take them. Take them back. So let's see if that's what he reveals in this clip, because I saw an interview and that's what he said.
I recently visited Guatemala and I sat down with the president there and I asked him, hey, what would it take in order for you to take back more Guatemalans that do not qualify for asylum via repatriation? And his answer was this: all it would take is a phone call from the president of the United States.
So exactly what I said. The president of Guatemala is like, well, he hasn't asked me to. What would it take for you to take your Guatemalans back? A phone call.
Biden has failed to even call these leaders from Northern Triangle. I sat with the foreign minister of El Salvador, and she essentially told me that they've never spoken with the Biden administration.
Wasn't Kamala Harris supposed to be in charge of this? And wasn't her excuse why she wasn't visiting the border was that she was making flights down to the Northern Triangle to talk to these leaders about it? And here's the president of El Salvador going, never heard from the Biden administration at all on this issue. So they've been basically whatever Kamala's doing. I don't know what did she just fly down to the Northern Triangle and just get some sun? I don't understand.
And what the congressman told me there is quite remarkable, because keep in mind, the Biden administration has been claiming they are working with these Northern Triangle countries on solving.
That's what I'm saying. They've been claiming they're addressing the root causes, and these people. This guy went to talk to the heads of those countries, and they're saying nope. They've never spoken to us about it.
The root issues of the causes of migration down there. Two of the leaders of those countries evidently just told the congressman they haven't heard anything from the administration since Kamala Harris visited them in June of last year. We'll send it back to you.
Wow, we haven't heard anything either. All right, Bill Malugin live for us in Eagle.
Unreal. So Bill Malugin also reported some pushback. You know that they've been busing illegal aliens to Washington, D.C. and New York now. And the mayors and officials in those places were claiming that, they're not even giving them food or water, and they're being forced against their will. Well, Bill Malugin busted that bubble when you could see they packed these buses for every trip with 4 days worth of food for each person on board. So typically that's 4 days worth of food for 50 people, I believe. Maybe if I have the number wrong, hopefully it'll be in this report. But food and water, there's plenty of it. And I believe the trip to New York takes like 55 hours driving. Guessing they stop a lot. But let's see the report on this. So apparently, that's debunked. They're not sent without food or water. KN95, I believe, is baby formula, by the way, if I'm not mistaken. Or is that, or no, I'm sorry, KN95, those are masks. What am I thinking? I believe these are Koof masks, KN95. Why am I thinking baby formula? So there's the Texas Division of Emergency Management, TDEM, showing video of them preparing the buses for the transfer of the illegal aliens from Texas to D.C. or New York. No idea where those buses in particular were headed. Let's see here. And the White House actually complaining when the White House does the same exact thing, except they do it at midnight or later flights that land like at 3 in the morning. They've been sending people to here in New York on like 3 a.m. flights that land at like Teterboro Airport. Yet somehow when they do it, it's okay. I don't know. This is like last week's news where Biden actually had the nerve to claim that there was zero inflation, despite the annual inflation rate being 8.5%. It's like he thinks if he says it was zero inflation, people won't notice at the supermarket that prices are higher. The only thing that neutralized inflation last month was that there was a decrease in the price of gas because of the recession. There was not an increase in production, just a decrease in demand. So the 80% of the decrease, of the offset to make that zero was from just the price of gasoline. The rest of the stuff, almost everything went up. So in reality, if you're a person, you're still seeing inflation everywhere. It's just that gas is a little cheaper than it was a month ago. Which is going to be a mirage, because that's going to go start, from all indications, is a temporary respite and is just going to go back up again very soon. Republicans are outraged at Joe Biden for accurately describing the economy. And the media was trying to jump and defend Biden on this. It's like, do you really think people are not going to notice prices still increasing? It's like, I don't think people put any stock in what Joe Biden says if when they go to the grocery store, their grocery bill is even bigger. Media cheers. Gas is now only up 62% under Biden. Yeah. It's like if your ship is sinking and you got like 9 holes in it, you plug one hole and you're celebrating. Okay, yeah. Now there's only 8 holes where water's coming into the boat. So exactly, and here's Frank Luntz. He just thinks this is stupid. He's like politically, you're doing politics wrong if you think people are this stupid. It's not like you can bullshit people about the war in Ukraine. Okay, nobody's following that. They don't know where it is. Most people don't take the time to study it like I do, or you know who studies this the war in Ukraine a lot? Sargon, his people over there at Lotus Eaters, Carl Benjamin. They do great work keeping track of the war in Ukraine. So you have YouTubers that obviously keep an eye on it. The average person in America, if they're even aware that there's a war in Ukraine, is certainly not following. So yeah, you can bullshit America on that. You can't bullshit Americans on inflation. I'm sorry. It's something that most people have exposure to on a day-to-day basis. The cost of data of this necessities. their energy bills and things like that. I mean, come on. So Frank Luntz is rightfully kind of just like, he can't believe this nonsense, and he calls it Orwellian, where they try to change the meaning of words like recession. He's like, this can't be real.
Franks, you don't like this at all. You think this was a terrible, terrible mistake, it sounds like. Why?
It's because it's cynical. It is a destruction of the meaning of words. It's Orwellian at its worst. It's the kind of job that I do as a language guy, as someone who tries to find the words and phrases to connect to the American people. But as a pollster, I know how much it plays into our belief that we can't trust our elected officials and we can't trust our institutions. You know, we've been polling this issue, and the American people think that it's harder now to make it, to get by. More than 70% of Americans have trouble making ends meet. 1 out of 4 literally have trouble paying their bills at the end of the week or end of the month because of inflation. And for Joe Biden to redefine what that means and to attempt to do it for the word recession is really the thing that the American people should be angriest about. You know, I do these presentations and these discussions, and I am a proud contributor to CNBC. I seek the truth. And when the American people understand, and you've got the numbers up there, what the inflation.
All right, let me stop. Remember what I mentioned, that 80% of the decrease in the CPI was that the demand for fuel went down? And you can see that, look at that's the big bar there. Notice everything else except apparel, clothing, up. Education, recreation, medical care, utilities, housing, food. Food, 11%. I mean, look at that bar. So how the hell are you going to tell people there's zero inflation if they're paying more this month for education, recreation, medical care, utilities, housing, and food? They're going to tell him he's out of his mind. If he keeps lying to them like that, they're going to get angry. Angry voters in November is not good for the incumbent.
What it really is. Right now, to put people on a plane, to have them attempt to put kids back to school, and they know how expensive it is. For him to say that the inflation rate is zero is going to be one of those issues that we remember the Biden administration for playing games with the English language.
So, like I said, you could bullshit people about a lot of stuff. Climate change, okay? You could bullshit people about, culture war issues. You could even bullshit people about, nonsense like, what is a woman? But I don't know why they think when it's something that affects people's wallet, that's where the line is drawn. There and no further, that people are like, okay, now this is affecting me. This is real. It's not abstract. And it's a universal thing. It's not like you can escape it. It's everywhere. Everywhere. It's every part of the country, every person, unless you're a the upper middle class or wealthier, it hurts. So, yeah, that he's gonna probably come to regret this 0% inflation claim. It says right there, just 12% of Americans. The act that he signed today, the Inflation Reduction Act, just 12% of Americans believe that the Inflation Reduction Act will reduce inflation. Right? 36%, over a third, believe it'll increase inflation, and then a bunch of the rest think it just won't issue any change. So why they call this the Inflation Reduction Act is beyond me. Only 1 out of 8 people think it will actually reduce inflation. With good reason, because the Senate passed this bill, this $700 billion bill, and it's total bullshit. Their own Congressional Budget Office says it will have little impact on inflation. You're not going to believe this, what the CBO says. When the CBO scored it, they said the changes would have a, quote, negligible impact on inflation this year and next. As a matter of fact, this is insane. The University of Pennsylvania's Penn-Wharton budget model concludes that over the next decade, the impact on inflation is statistically indistinguishable from zero. Zero! $700 billion spent on an act that says it's going to reduce inflation, and the CBO and the Wharton School both say that the impact over the next decade is going to be indistinguishable from zero. Good, close enough for government work, I guess. Yeah, 87,000 new armed IRS agents is going to reduce inflation. 87,000, that's what they should call the bill. The 87,000 new armed IRS agents act. Essentially, almost creating like a new arm of the military. I pointed out in the previous stream that after this act, if they were to hire the 87,000 IRS agents, they would be about the size of the United States Marine Corps. they would be like another branch of the military, you know, another infantry branch. And the reason I say that is because I don't have any story linked here, but I've been seeing stories that the IRS, for some bizarre reason, is like the largest purchaser of ammunition outside of the military right now. They're just gobbling up all the ammo they could find. How many times do IRS agents fire their gun in a typical year, right? Jesus. I understand they're law enforcement, they have to be armed, but why do they need so much ammunition? I don't ever see news stories of IRS agents getting into shootouts. I imagine that the typical audit goes on without resorting to firearms. So I don't begrudge a law enforcement agency from buying ammunition, but the amounts they're buying, it's like they're preparing for, to invade Ukraine. I mean, wow. Also, this nonsense that it wasn't going to impact anyone with less than $400,000 in income. They've done this, even the CBO. I mean, they don't buy this. That 60% of the increase in audits that happens because of this adding the 87,000, 60% of the increase in audits is going to impact people making less than $75,000. It's crazy. Inflation Reduction Act. How could they name it that? It has nothing to do with reducing inflation. Democrat deal takes $20 billion from working middle-class Americans with new IRS audits. So yeah, $20 billion of the money that they say is going to be raised is going to come from the middle class. $20 billion. Remember the not one penny of increase that Biden said? Not one penny. Well, not according to the Congressional Budget Office. There was a time when they would never make claims like that until the CBO scored a deal. They said that not one penny more, and then the CBO came out and said, not so fast. Middle-class Americans with these new audits would pay $20 billion in new taxes. $20 billion sounds like a lot bigger number than one penny. Unless Joe Biden is that gone. Here's the Penn-Wharton budget model. Put out August 12, 2022, so 4 days ago. The Penn-Wharton budget model estimates that the Senate-passed version of the Inflation Reduction Act would reduce non-interest cumulative deficits by $264 billion over the budget window. The impact on inflation is statistically indistinguishable from zero. GDP, the gross domestic product, falls slightly within the first decade. So, guys, this Inflation Reduction Act, not only does it not reduce inflation, statistically indistinguishable from zero, but over the next decade actually reduces the gross domestic product. It hurts the economy of the United States. This is clown world. Biden signed a bill today that's clown world. It doesn't reduce inflation, and it actually reduces GDP. Congressional Budget Office contradicts White House on IRS expansion bill. I mean, this is the love. I think about it. I mean, I love these showing these clips. This is the guy we're listening to. This guy who can't even remember for that he shook this guy's hand already 10 seconds prior. Watch this. Here's Chuck Schumer. I think they're announcing the success in passing the bill. Biden shakes Schumer's hand. Then Schumer goes to shake Pelosi and this other lady's hands. And then Biden goes to shake his hand again. And Schumer, wisely doesn't play into that. And then Biden tries to play it off by rubbing his chin. Watch. Shook Schumer's hand. Now Schumer goes over to Pelosi. And
now
Biden,
our great speaker, our
Biden hand out again. Now that he just got left hanging, goes for the chin rub.
partner who all of these bills we've met.
Let's see that again. What's the time? It's the time index. The handshake with Biden ends at 2 seconds into the clip. Already at 6 seconds of the clip, really 5. I stopped it a little late. But let's be generous. No, 5 seconds. He's already going for he's already lifted a hand for another handshake. He can't remember that he shook the guy's hand 3 seconds ago. 3 seconds prior, he had shaken his hand and he forgot. Unbelievable. And this is who we're listening to. This guy can't even get dressed on his own. He can't even dress himself. I just want to end the fiction that this guy runs the United States. There's no way. This dude is a figurehead, a puppet. It is clear. He literally can't dress himself. Look at this. This video is almost a minute long. He can't get his stupid jacket on. Look at it. He's got his glasses halfway falling off his face. Even with assistance, he can't dress himself. Now keep an eye. It took him more than half a minute to get the jacket on. Keep an eye on the glasses now. This guy can't even keep glasses on his nose. Ay. Tell me no one actually believes that guy is in charge. Tell me that this farce has to come to an end. This is ridiculous. This is who's signing the bills. Who signed the bill, by the way, today. And Biden recently had the Rona. And then they said he doesn't have it anymore. Now today we find out his wife tested positive. But how could they say he didn't? I mean, look at him. He was coughing all through that speech. Watch this. Look at this. Look at this montage of Biden coughing. You're gonna tell me he still doesn't have the Rona?
Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I'll take another sip of water.
What the hell was that? Dude, I don't know, man. You're telling, you think it's any wonder that Jill has the Rona days after they said Biden was clear, and he's basically hacking up a lung there? All right, so we talked about Governor Abbott of Texas, one of the governors sending the illegals to D.C. and New York. And the funny thing is that Mayor Adams here in New York, I mean, this guy, could he be any more clueless in this regard? The threat that Adams levied to Abbott in Texas was that if he doesn't stop sending illegal aliens to New York City, that he's going to go down to Texas and campaign for Beto O'Rourke. I don't know what in Adams' mind what he thinks, but I can assure you, a New York City mayor going down to Texas to campaign would probably be something that Governor Abbott would love to happen. Let's just say New York City values are not Texas values, and certainly not New York City Democrat values, if you know what I'm saying. Here's Abbott practically saying, go ahead. I'm sure he'd pay for him to come.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott in focus now. So glad to have you. First of all, your reaction to that latest threat from Mayor Adams in New York City.
You know, I kind of feel like Clint Eastwood. Go ahead, Mayor. Make my day. There could hardly be anything better to aid my campaign against Beto O'Rourke than to have Beto O'Rourke have his campaign aided by a bunch of New Yorkers that will not be viewed very positively in the state of Texas. Candidly, the only thing better than that is what has already occurred, and that is Beto has received $1 million from George Soros. This is a campaign by Beto that's being...
Of course! Of course, Beto O'Rourke is financed by George Soros. I didn't even know that. Of course. Oh my God, you can't make this up. George Soros. I'm sure that'll go down very popular with Texas voters. George Soros picking their governor. Oh my God, let's see if he has got any more nuggets. Oh, that was it.
Run by people outside of the state of Texas. This race is about Texans, and Texans are fed up with what the Biden administration has done on our border, the chaos that has caused, the damage that has caused in the state of Texas, and that is exactly why we are sending these illegal immigrants to places like Washington, D.C. and New York City.
You know, the political opponents across the aisle from you, everybody from Governor Hochul here in New York to Eric Adams and others, Muriel Bowser down in D.C.,
now remember,
are
guys,
using the term political pawns, and they're accusing you.
I'm not saying this as a denizen of some red state. I'm a New Yorker. I live in New York City. Lived here all my life. And I'm telling you, this mayor's got to be insane if he thinks that him going to Texas to campaign for Beto would be a positive. George Soros. Oh, George Soros is giving $1 million to Beto. Oh, I'm sure that's going to play well in Texas. News out of Florida. You know, over the months, over the last year, from time to time, I've noted the gains that Republicans have made, stunning gains in some cases, with Hispanic voters. And here we have the latest poll out of Florida, where not only have Republicans gained with Hispanic voters, Governor Ron DeSantis is now beating both Democratic rivals. That's both, I believe Charlie Crist is one of them running down there. He's beating him, not slightly, but by 20 points with Hispanics. Unbelievable. According to DeSantis lost to Hispanics. Now, he lost to Hispanics by 10 points in 2018, the last time he ran, which is actually pretty good. For that's a great number for a Republican to only lose Hispanics to a Democrat by 10 points. That kind of number usually means the Republican wins. And they've got to win with Hispanics by way bigger numbers than 10 points. Here, he's not just losing by a little bit, he's blowing them out with Hispanic voters. So Ron DeSantis has now essentially, he's BTFOing the Democrats with Hispanic voters. He's got the Cubans, he's got the Venezuelans, and I believe there's a significant Puerto Rican population in Orlando. He seems to have convinced him that he's the guy, not Charlie Crist, or this other woman that's running against him down there. What's her name? Let's see. Nikki Fried. That's her name. So against both of them, Ron DeSantis gets 55% of the vote. And Nikki Fried gets only 35%, so a 20-point blowout there. Charlie Crist does even worse, 33%, so he gets blown out by 22 points with Hispanic voters. Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but I'm thinking that Florida is in the bag for Ron DeSantis and the GOP. Put that one in the leans R column. Let's see here. Oh, this is great. I mean, AOC, she is the gift that keeps on giving. Okay, because here we have, you know, say what you want about AOC. I think she's very cunning, and she's got great skills as a politician in terms of, if you want to be the type of politician that doesn't necessarily get any actual work done, but you just want to get attention, she's great at that. So, you know, the blocking and tackling of politics, she's got that. You know, the old saying about there being two types of congressmen, the show horse and the workhorse. The workhorse would be someone like Chuck Grassley, the guy that, you know, he joins a committee, he gets into the weeds, he writes bills, gets shit done, you know. AOC's a show horse. But the thing is that we also know, if you get her on a long enough timeline just to talk long enough, she just reveals how stupid she is. And here she is, as a Citizen Free Press writes it, Sandy sees a tattoo she doesn't like, and she thinks she's Nancy Drew. Listen to how she used her time as a congresswoman to go on and on and on about a tattoo, and thinking like she discovered this white supremacist plot because of a tattoo she saw.
I'd like us to just dive right into it. I have a photo that I'd like to pull up for the committee and our witnesses to be able to see. Can we get that pulled up? It's on. Okay, perfect. Mr. Daniel, you are CEO of firearm manufacturer Daniel Defense. This photograph is from an advertisement featured for your company.
All right, let me stop right there. The tattoo in question is of 3 interlinked triangles in a triangular formation, just linked together. And what that is...
No, I'd like to draw your attention.
And what that is basically a pagan Christian, a Norse pagan symbol. So basically, you know, Scandinavia, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Iceland, Greenland. It's basically a Norse pagan symbol, very popular among neo-pagans. So essentially, it's a religious symbol. Now, she's going to point out that it is a symbol that is sometimes adopted by white supremacists. But I'm going to point out something. As much as she likes to point out that there is a contingent of white supremacists that is into neo-paganism, the overwhelming majority of white supremacists are Christian and do not wear pagan tattoos, number one. So because some fringe portion of an already fringe group sometimes wears a religious symbol, somehow this is an example of the gun manufacturers in the United States actually being supporters of white supremacy. I mean, this is so bizarre. Let's let it play some more.
To that red tattoo featured in your company's advertisement. Do you know what that tattoo is, Mr. Daniels?
I doubt he does, because I'm guessing Mr. Daniels is not a neo-pagan. I'm guessing he's a Christian.
Congresswoman, I'm not sure this is our ad. Can you show the whole ad? Is this our ad or someone else's?
Yes, this is your ad, Mr. Daniel. This is an advertisement for your company, Daniel Defense.
Why is the brand name not in the photo?
No worries, no worries. So this is
So I just want to stipulate, I seriously don't think AOC is perpetrating a fraud here. I will accept that this, without any evidence otherwise, that this is an authentic advertisement. Otherwise, she would look even stupider. Let's stipulate that this is likely an authentic ad. Again, you can hardly see this. It's not even the tattoo is not even fully visible. First of all, you would have to be somebody knowing what you're looking for to spot this, and then know what at the full shape is. So it's not like it's even prominent. It's not even obvious. It's blown up and circled. So how is this an effective advertisement for white supremacy? It's almost like the Da Vinci Code at this point. What we have here.
Prominently in your advertisement, that tattoo. You've indicated that you don't know what it is, but Ms. Sampson, as an expert in this area, can you briefly tell us what that tattoo is?
All right. First of all, she has to bring in an academic expert on this topic to identify it. Again, so if you need to be an academic expert in a field to identify something, I don't think this makes it an effective advertising element. Just me. I don't know.
That's a fall knot, and it's a symbol that has been increasingly embraced by white supremacists.
So, Mr. Daniel, you may or may not know, but your company's advertisement prominently displays iconography associated with white supremacist movements.
No, it's iconography. It's a religious symbol. It's like saying because some white supremacists might have a tattoo of a cross, that somehow, having a tattoo of a cross makes you a member of the white supremacist movement. I've seen many white supremacists with cross tattoos on them. Yet somehow, when I see a cross tattoo, immediately my mind does not jump to white supremacist. That the person is a member of a white supremacist movement. The Valnut is the same thing. When I see somebody with a Valnut tattoo, my first inclination is, oh, he's a neo-pagan. Because most white supremacists are not neo-pagans. That is a fringe portion, probably in single digits percentage, of the overwhelming majority of white supremacists who identify as Christians of some form, or are themselves agnostic or atheists. So this is insane. How she's harping on this. This is how she used all her time. She wasted on this.
You can also find it in this other photo that I will be pulling up right now. Right there from January 6th.
The Buffalo Shaman! What, did I miss something? Does the Buffalo Shaman espouse white supremacy? He's just some kook who goes around with pagan symbols. Here, this is another like Norse symbol I've seen before. He's just a guy with pagan tattoos. Is he a white supremacist? I've never seen any claim that he is, or any evidence to that fact. So because, again, this tattoo, obviously, Buffalo Shaman, this guy, it appears to me, the Buffalo Shaman might just be a pagan.
You can see the fall knot right there on this gentleman's chest.
So clearly, the J6, we got the J6, we got white supremacy, are all tied up in this obscure ad photo of a half-covered Valnut. Links it all together. This is like Alex Jones levels of conspiracy. Next, she's going to start talking to us about the lizard people.
Mr. Daniel, yes or no, are you aware that your advertising department uses imagery affiliated with white supremacist movements in its marketing materials?
No, ma'am, I don't think we do.
Reclaiming my time, thank you. I apologize, I just have to move a bit quickly to fit these questions in. Mr. Bussey, you are a former reclaiming my time. Mr. Bussey, you are a former firearms executive. Do you think that the use of this kind of imagery is welcomed and encouraged?
Notice the premise of her question. She's assuming this as a fact. She's not established this as a fact. The question assumes it as a fact. Okay? This question that she's asking assumes that this is a fact, that the Valnut, it means 100% means if you have a Valnut tattoo, you are a white supremacist.
In marketing for the firearms industry as a former executive yourself?
I don't think it's welcomed and encouraged, but I think it's looked away from. And I think that there is a aura and an approach in the industry where any single gun customer is good, no matter how detestable their views or their actions may be. And I saw dozens of examples through my career.
Did I miss something? Do gun manufacturers, they make guns, and they don't typically sell them directly, although I think you can. I'm pretty sure you can. I mean, you can order them online. But they still have to, even if you order them online, they still have to be sent to a gun store. So the gun manufacturers don't generally operate the gun stores. So how would the gun manufacturers be in a position to perform some kind of ideological screening on their customers? Customer walks into your store, he's not going to divulge to you his political beliefs, his religious beliefs. He's going to say, I want a gun. And I believe the only legal requirement for him to get that gun is for him to fill out a federal background check. And if there are no issues with that federal background check, 99 of 100, unless you're such a person, so antisocial that you give the gun store employee or owner a funny feeling, like, yo, this guy's a little bit, I don't know. He could refuse to sell to you on his own judgment if he thinks you're kind of hinky. You know, if you're sketchy or shady, yeah, then he may not sell you the weapon. But they're not going to conduct ideological screening. It's a store. And the gun manufacturers are a level removed from that. They're wholesalers. So they're not there at the retail level performing ideological screening of individual customers. This is stupid.
Of the acceptance of or looking away from racist things. I think that's different than seeking it out, but I don't think it's properly controlled or addressed.
So in your experience, you believe that a lot of gun manufacturers may turn a blind eye to these kinds of instances?
Yes, Congresswoman, that's correct.
Again, as gun manufacturers, they don't, correct me, I'm not a gun industry expert. I don't think most gun manufacturers, unless you're like a small gun shop that makes your own guns, I mean, that's possible. But major gun manufacturers, I don't think operate point of sales. They might do big sales to like direct sales to like police departments, the military, you know, organizations like that, maybe security firms. I'm sure Blackwater buys their guns to somebody. But in general, major gun manufacturers, I don't think operate retail outlets. Super chat again for V Radio. Would be curious if she has the same concerns about the black supremacists buying assault weapons, because they do. A lot of them. Yes, the not fucking around crew. They'll march around sometimes in the hundreds. Each one of them carrying a semi-automatic rifle. AR style. Or AK. So I don't know. Let's continue with this line of questions.
They've turned a blind eye because the industry has within its DNA now the belief that any single new gun owner is good.
Again, gun manufacturers don't think in terms of single gun sales. They're not sitting there hard up for money if some white supremacist doesn't buy a gun from them. I'm sorry. Number two, I don't even think that it would be, I don't think you could legally deny someone a purchase because you don't like their political beliefs. I'm not even, I mean, I'm sure in practice you probably could, but that'd be making a lot of assumptions. If the person wanted to make a case out of it, you may get in a lot of legal trouble if you start denying customers who've broken no law, you know, the especially on a specified individual right like the Second Amendment, which is spelled out in the Constitution. You're probably messing with liability if you're going to just make blanket decisions based on a political ideological screen. Although in practice, I'm sure most of them would get away with it. But still, again, keep it in mind, we're talking about large-scale gun manufacturers. You know, Smith & Wesson is not going to go out of business because they don't get an extra sale from some guy wearing a Valnot. I'm sorry.
No matter what they do or how they market.
I just don't see the white supremacist market being big enough for the gun industry to want to risk their financial well-being and existence so they could sell a few more guns to this tiny fringe group.
And that's why you heard earlier the representatives from Ruger and Daniel Defense, both of them who've sat on the NSSF board, would refuse to condemn the ads.
Thank you, Mr. Bussey. And the toxic marketing does do enormous harm.
Imagine you're a heckler and Coke, and you're selling thousands of guns to the military and police departments, but you're gonna go and squeeze out that one extra sale to the white supremacist in Appalachia somewhere, and jeopardize your major contract business. So, sure.
Seen the results with white supremacists using these weapons to target and kill Black Americans shopping for groceries in Buffalo, attending church in Charleston, targeting Jewish communities in Tree of Life, and Mr. Daniel, once again, as the CEO of Daniel Defense, yes or no, do you believe that members of identified extremist hate groups such as the Proud Boys or Oath Keepers should be able to purchase the AR-15 style rifle?
The answer is yes. If they've committed no crime, they pass a federal background check. You can't deny people their constitutional rights because they're a member of a group you don't like.
That your company sells?
Congresswoman, we're regulated by the ATF.
We have a super chat in here. Let's see here. Super chat from Paulie Frog. Gun laws mainly came about to keep guns out of the hands of black people and mobsters. Reagan banned open carry in California because of the Black Panthers. Yes, the first gun control laws in America were written over concerns of black people getting their hands on guns. They feared former slave revolts and such things.
Through laws which you pass, we are very good at only.
Thank you. I apologize. I just have a limited amount of time. Thank you. Turning it to you, Mr. Killoy, you are a board member, a CEO of Sturm, Ruger and Company. You're a board member of the National Shooting Sports Foundation. Mr. Daniel, you are also a board member of the NSSF. Mr. Killoy, Palmetto State Armory is a firearms company that's a member of the NSSF. Now, I'd like to pull up another photo. As a member of the foundation that you're in, right here, Palmetto State Armory has used imagery clearly designed to appeal to the FBI-identified far-right domestic terror threat, Boogaloo Boys, with products such as this AK-47 style pistol designed in the same floral pattern that is often used by these group members to identify one another. Mr. Killoy, as a board member of the NSSF, do you condemn marketing firearms to identified extremist groups such as the...
We have a super chat from Peter Watkins. Mr. Assault Riffle, it shows here that a guy who is a climate change denier was able to purchase a fully semi-automatic weapon from you directly. Are you prepared to answer for this heinous crime? Exactly. As if you could tell the person's political ideology from just their walking in a store and buying a gun. Here we have her trying to go, oh, this floral print is the exclusive property of some bullshit movement that I don't even think exists in reality. There's plenty of people who identify as boogaloos, but is it even real anymore? It was a meme for a couple years there, but come on. At this point now, she's trying to associate any floral print with the Boogaloo Boys. Which, by the way, I will note, I have seen in the last, I'm going to say 4 or 5 years, all the crazy customized guns you could imagine. I used to, I'd always known that, for example, there was always examples of people wanting gold-plated guns or guns that looked like they were gold. Cartel members, Saddam Hussein, African warlords. It was a popular thing with them to get guns that were customized to look like they were made of gold. But believe it or not, with the entry of women big time into the firearms market, believe it or not, Almost half of new gun sales are women now. Black women also another major gun sale demographic. With the entry of women, now you have to understand that men don't really give a shit. Their choices tend to be black or the tan or brown or desert brown, the wood grain. With women in the market now, it's like a fashion accessory. I've seen pink guns, chartreuse guns, magenta guns, guns with all kind of customization, Hello Kitty guns, you name it. That and the proliferation and the easier technology it is today. It's way easier to customize a gun today than it used to be, say, in the 80s or 90s. Now it's almost trivial to get customized guns. I mean, you should see all the wild shit in terms of people buying customized guns.
The Proud Boys or Oath Keepers or Boogaloo Boys? Yes or no? Do you condemn your industry explicitly marketing materials to domestic terror threats?
Congresswoman, the National Shooting Sports Foundation does not control individual member companies.
But this is a member of your foundation, Mr. Toloy.
I take exception to the fact that, I can assure you we do not tolerate racism or white supremacy.
Do you condemn marketing these materials? Do you condemn marketing these materials to Proud Boys, Oath Keepers, or Boogaloo Boys? That's all, Madam Chair. It's just a yes or no.
Congresswoman,
answer the question.
I didn't know that was. I'd never seen that ad before, and I didn't realize that's what it was tied to. And I'm not an expert in that field.
So you don't have an answer here.
The lady's time has expired.
Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. 3D printing. A lot of the parts on a gun are not, integral to the say the firing chamber, and are not required to be. They just 3D print the more cosmetic and aesthetic parts of the guns. But even the metal parts, they're easier to get etched today. First of all, there's a lot more people that do it. This was like something that was like rare back in the day. Now there's just a lot more places where you can get it done. It's just not as unusual as it used to be. This is a story just it's kind of funny, where clever students hilariously turn the tables on woke school teacher during pronoun usage talk. Some students are not sitting back and just being passive as they get fed the woke bullshit, and they turn it back on the teacher, and she appears to be vexed by the students just not going for the wokeness.
Okay, TikTok, I really need your help here on this one. I'm a teacher. I teach 5th and 6th grade, and this morning, I don't know, somehow the concept of pronouns came up. And one of my students said, well, Miss Odell, did you even ask me my pronouns? And I was like, whoa, I hadn't actually asked him his pronouns, and I had called him a him, and I said, oh, I'm so sorry, I haven't actually asked you what your pronouns are, and what are they? And he said, Banana said, banana and rock. And I was like, dude, no, don't mess around. I was actually really upset.
Let me stop her right there. Basically, she just violated the rules of the new pronoun religion. Okay? You're not allowed to question the pronouns, right? You're not allowed to mock or disbelieve. Right? Remember, gender is fluid. It's whatever the person claims is supposed to be it. You don't get to decide what's genuine or not. Remember, are you denying their existence? Is she denying the existence of banana gender? Is she saying it's not real? You know the old trope, they go, oh, you're saying transgender people don't exist? So right there, she's violated the tenets of wokeness there.
I thought he was making fun of it. And in fact, I'm still pretty sure he was making fun of it. And, but they all agreed, no, you can choose anything. Banana, rock, if you want banana and rock to be a pronoun, banana and rock's a pronoun. Is it? TikTok, tell me. So
she's genuinely vexed. I think she does understand. Wait a minute. Am I violating the rules here? I mean, I can't question that. But I don't. I suspect he's mocking it and making fun of it. But what do? She's asking TikTok. This is the cul-de-sac that you get led into when you start buying into woke thinking. She could see logically how it's all bullshit right there. It's like, wait a minute, he's telling me he identifies as banana? Well, it's no different than saying I'm two-spirit, I'm pansexual, this or whatever. It's all nonsense. And the kid has just demonstrated to her why it's all nonsense. You can think you are whatever you want or claim you are whatever you want. In reality, it doesn't exist. And when they use a nonsensical thing like I identify as a banana, she knows that doesn't exist, that he cannot be a sentient banana. And yet she's actually entertaining the stupidity of actually referring to him as a banana. She's asking, should I refer to him as a banana? Think of the absurdity. And this is a teacher. This is the saddest part of this. This is a teacher actually asking if she should go through with referring to the kid as banana. Unreal. So if you think you guys are safe in some red state because, your libraries are in a red state, think again. American Library Association promotes secret LGBT messaging. Librarians should sneak pro-LGBT messages into conservative communities, according to a post on the American Library Association website. Do you work for a library in a small, rural, conservative community? Are you a frontline staff member there with no managerial or administrative authority? Do you wish you could do more to make your library more inclusive to the LGBTQIA++ community, but meet with resistance? The post about the LGBT Book Month reads, I hope it's not just me. The post writer, Tess Goldwasser, goes on to advise librarians without administrative authority on how to put pro-LGBT messaging into libraries. Goldwasser, a Maryland librarian, originally was named as the author of the post, but the American Library Association removed her name in 2019. The American Library Association is the world's largest library association. It has more than 58,000 members, including librarians, library workers, library trustees, and others. If local leaders don't promote LGBT material, librarians should tell kids about it anyway, Goldwasser wrote. So you're not doing drag queen story time yet, but you're probably doing regular old story time, right? Try to sneak inclusive messages into your current programs, she wrote. If a book doesn't include LGBT characters, a librarian could add them. Just alter the book. Don't read the book as is. Just change the book. Alter the author's work. A librarian reading to children could replace Mama Bear and Papa Bear with Papa Bear and Papa Bear. If a character's gender isn't mentioned, librarians should change it up. Chances are kids and families won't even notice, so deceive them. Be deceptive. But for that same-sex family or gender non-conforming child who does, it will really mean a lot to them to know their librarian has their back, wrote Goldwasser. So again, you have to be a deceptive person. Public meeting places. If a library resists pro-LGBT programming, librarians should ask every year for a pro-LGBT book display, Goldwasser wrote. Eventually, the library might agree. If the management doesn't want to run its own pro-LGBT programs, librarians should invite LGBT groups to hold meetings in the library's public meeting spaces, she added. So actively go out and recruit somebody to do what the library doesn't want. Reach out to groups like your local PFLAG chapter or local schools' LGBT student groups and let them know that they can hold meetings and host programs at your library. Librarians should go around management to acquisition specialists to request award-winning pro-LGBT books. If someone challenges the addition of pro-LGBT books, librarians should firmly defend their choices, Goldwasser advised. Be ready to listen to the complainant and respond in a calm manner, stating that your library purchases items for all the members of your community and that you'd be happy to help them find other items more to their tastes. Most of the time, the people who get this response will move on. So notice she's not suggesting you buy Larry Elder's books and slip them into the library in a liberal area. She's not suggesting you buy Thomas Sowell books and slip them into some urban library where they don't have or might particularly not want it. Oh, slip the LGBT books into the red areas where they don't want it. So that's what it basically amounts to. Super chat from Taro Daos. This is secular missionary work. Go into other states and force culture change based on your home state. More or less, I mean, it has all the trappings of religion. Really a cult. Anyway. I think I've yammered enough for tonight. So keep in mind, I don't know. I'm not saying it's gonna happen. Probably not. But maybe if I'm so moved by a Liz Cheney blowout loss, maybe I might come back later tonight. But don't count on it. Certainly don't wait up for it, guys. But if you see that notification come, don't be shocked. So that's going to be all for this NeoUnrealist. If you want to help the channel, do me a favor, hit like for this video, leave a comment below, and mash down that subscribe button if you're not already subbed to the channel. Click on the notification bell beside it if you want to get the notifications. You're going to have to go to that bell next to it, put it on the all setting, and then Susan in her infinite wisdom will determine whether or not you get to keep up with the new content. Now, if you want to contribute directly to the channel, toss your hard-earned dollars tip jar. Do your bit for the potato. Follow the links below to Patreon, Subscribestar, or PayPal. Or if you watch this on BitChute, you can just click on the green tip pledge button on the video player itself. They make it very easy. More importantly, guys, thank you for watching.